All right. Where was?
What were you gonna say?
Ask about Fanboy Confidential.
Thank you. There is the question. I'm like.
Oh God.
Everything is fine, okay?
You're a really beautiful lady.
Make it a double.
Hey, this is Mr. Green, and I'm here, of course, with Aaron Ashmore, who is an amazing actor who's been in a ton of stuff, a lot of stuff I've watched, especially TV.
Keep it coming.
Yeah.
Keep it coming.
Oh, you want me to, I can stroke it all day.
No, it's good.
Yeah. So obviously, Aaron, you've played in a ton of different roles, and recently you were Steve Jinx on Warehouse 13.
Mm-hmm.
What made you go to this character and draw into it?
Well, I'd seen Warehouse 13, and again, like working in the sci-fi genre, I knew it was a very popular show, and I'd seen it and I enjoyed it. And the role of Steve Jinx was great because, first, the ability to be able to tell when people were lying, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Also, the fact that he was gay, I thought, and the way that they wanted to represent this character. You know, I think there's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to gay characters on television. So, you know, going into it, I didn't want to play it like that, and neither did they. So it was kind of interesting to make a pretty well-rounded characters with these interesting abilities, with, you know, being able to you know, tell when people are lying, and the fact that he was gay. I just thought it was a really interesting character.
Cool. Yeah, that would be a really cool power. You're meeting people, and it's like you ask that girl out, and she's like, "Yeah, these are your digits," and she's like, "Oh yeah, totally." And you're like, "Oh no."
I think it would actually be a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, I think it really, like, you know, honestly, being able to tell when people lie, and Jinx kind of has this kind of, he's a little surly, you know, at times.
Right,
he's
yeah.
a little bit, and I think that a big part of it. Is that Toronto Batman? Sorry, I just got distracted there for that.
Conventions.
But I know, you never know who you're going to see, right? But yeah, I think it makes him a little bit standoffish, and that because, you know when people are lying to you, and, you know, if you think about day to day, we all lie all the time, little fibs, little things,
Right.
but we do. So knowing when everybody was lying all the time, I think it would take its toll on you.
Yeah, no doubt. That'd be a little rough. It's
Yeah.
like, did you take out the garbage? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Liar.
Yeah.
You played Jimmy Olsen on Smallville, and you played Jimmy Olsen on Smallville. It was interesting because you played Jimmy Olsen for a while, and of course that character got killed off.
Yep.
And then
We found out he wasn't really Jimmy.
yeah, and then the last episode, there you were as Jimmy Olsen again.
Amazing.
How is it to play the same? Like when you got that call to come back for the last episode to play Jimmy, were you kind of like, "Are you guys okay? Are you smoking drugs on this one?"
Yeah, I was honored because it was nice for them to, you know, they could have recast the part, they could have done whatever, but they were super nice about it and said, you know, we kind of wrote you off in a weird way there, but we'd love for you to come back and play the iconic real Jimmy on Smallville. So I was more than happy to do that. Right. But I was a little bit like, oh, you guys are bringing them, you know, I was a little confused.
Yeah.
I had to ask some questions. I had to be like, okay, you guys are sure this is really Jimmy this time? So, but they're great, and it was nice to go back and be able to do the finale.
And now, of course, you've had some appearances on Lost Girl recently.
Yes.
And you know, so what brought you into Lost Girl? Like,
I had worked with the same producers on a show called 13, which shoots in Toronto, and not Warehouse 13, but it's called 13. It's a spy show. And the first episode that I did on 13, the executive producer who does both shows said, "Hey, this season of the show, I got this character that would play one of the main girls' boyfriends. Like, yeah, you know, we're just thinking about it. Like, would you be interested in that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." But this was like 6 months after the fact. I kind of forgot about it, and he called me up and he said, "You know, you want to." You know, would you like to do this thing? I was like, oh, sure, great. And again, like, I'd seen the show, I knew it shot in Toronto, I knew it had a great fan base and following. So just, you know, right place at the right time, really, you know, and a lot of the business, that's just what it is. So I really just kind of lucked out.
and it must be difficult. You have to tell me, it must be really difficult day in and day out, going on set with some of the hottest women in television.
I've been very fortunate in my career to get to play the love interests of a lot of amazing, beautiful, talented women. So what can I say? It's a tough job, guys. It's a real tough job.
No doubt. I'm looking at you right now, and it's just all pity for you because
I know, guys.
It must be so rough.
It's just rough, and but it's a job, and you got to make the best of it. So I do.
You do do a great job at that. So I have another question. This one's kind of been something that me and my some friends of mine have talked about because obviously your brother Sean, you guys are twins, and yeah. Have you guys ever pulled the old switcheroo on a director? Like you show up and played Iceman and X-Men?
No, I mean, everybody always asks that because they think, oh, you guys are twins, you must have fun with it. But growing up, everybody mixed us up. So we wanted people to know, no, I'm Aaron, I'm Sean. And already today, signing some autographs, I've had probably 3 or 4 people come up with Iceman stuff being like, can you sign that? And I'm like, oh, it's actually my brother. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, no, I'm Aaron, and I've done these shows, and that's my twin brother, Sean, and he's done this stuff. And it takes a second to sink in. They're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I can sign that for you if you want. They're like, no, okay. The one sort of switcheroo thing that we did is when Sean was working on X2 in Vancouver, I went to go visit. And he wasn't working, but he took me to set that day, and we didn't really plan it, but one of the ADs was like, oh, Aaron, you need to, because I had much shorter hair than Sean at the time, and I still do, and he said, well, why don't you just kind of walk up behind Brian and just the director and just kind of stand there and watch the monitor, and when he looks at you, he's going to freak out because he's going to think that you cut your hair or whatever, and it's going to, he's going to freak out, and I was like, okay. So I'm kind of standing there. I'd never met him before, and I'm just standing there, and he looks back at me, does a double take, and he's like, you're not Sean. And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay. And then that was it. And I was like, oh, it didn't really pay off. Everybody was like, oh, that wasn't really as funny as we wanted it to be. Because the minute he looked at me, he just did a double take. He's like, you're not Sean. And I'm, so I think he knew that Sean had a twin. So, but that's the only time we've really tried to trick somebody, and it didn't work. So there you go. To be honest with you, I think people would be pissed at work. If you tried to sub in, they'd just be like, guys, that's not funny. You guys don't look the same.
I'll get you out here on one last question for me is the Lost Girl itself, is there anything you can tell us, tease coming up about it?
No, I don't give away any spoilers because I know lots of people like to hear stuff and then other people don't, and then I hear about that. So I think the end of the season is going to be really big, which is to be expected, but it's going to be big, and that's all I can say. I don't want to give.
Can't say anything about your character?
Well, I'll say this because it happens to be on a lot of sci-fi shows that I'm on, is that I end up dying. Well, I don't die.
Wow, that's a plus. This is a good thing. That's awesome.
So I'll say that I don't die, so I could be back for sure.
Excellent.
That's all I got.
Yeah.